Editing. High point editing. AI assisted editing. Broad scope editing. Automatic documentary maker. Automatic presentation maker. Automatic analysis and upgrade tool. Purposes respective in areas of the aforementioned are only a small sample of concepts that deal with essential cog development in asset archiving, holdings indeterminate, which at the moment are considered as though stolen until proven destroyed. Therefore, they are considered recoverable. The respective holdings in the archive of these former achievements deal with concepts of being able to look at material, automatically make documentaries or presentations or different styles of material, such as educational, streamlining them to particular interest would also be a feature. In other words, parties that already have certain skill sets, certain knowledge, or have already viewed certain documentaries, sometimes repeatedly, would be able to have this knowledge known by the AI, so the AI could take this into account when creating segmented, fast tracking options of the aforementioned documentaries, presentations, making educational materials, etc. This brings about concepts and understanding that what was a 2-hour documentary and a 2-hour upgrade then becomes condensed when a third documentary of upgrade comes about, where we don't have to have a retracing of any of these effective steps at the same level. Therefore, the previous 4 hours could be fast-tracked into highly condensed material that is both visual and text, audio, image reinforcement at various levels, heavy to heavier to light. This brings about an understanding of high point understanding, where we have massively condensed information. This base understanding that was just conveyed brings about the opportunity for people to now grasp more opportunities that were also discovered in previous research. The ability to take courses in entire skill sets, which would have been a college course, which could have represented 42-hour lectures, plus lab, plus additional material, plus the adding of condensing all this material with the previous techniques just mentioned, where these courses can be modified for first-time parties to absorb this material by high point, or to understand the material because it's an included prerequisite only from the standpoint that it is a baseline factor of what is already involved. In other words, these items are part of a foundation that's already there. These can be adjustably condensed with text, visual presentation, multi-visual presentations of the elements and aspects. This would afford parties the option to touch and pause or touch and select, and then still be able to access additional extensional information or recall previous information for if somebody forgot the material. This affords high-speed learning at enormous speeds. We're talking about learning materials 40 times faster for many humans. We're talking about this adjustable factor can go on. We have people that could end up effectively having the knowledge of 7 or more college courses. So effectively, we could be talking about material that could be very condensed and deal with 7 master's degrees in 7 different subject areas. They can also have a conveyance where among the complexity options, the material is turned into forms of automatic AI-managed material. This gives a better opportunity for parties to absorb a bit better understanding of subject material areas for better interaction with the AI, for more efficient creation of prompting, retrieval, arrangement, and customized analytics and customized arrangements of forward-moving material. These can become enormous time savers. This can become an even more accelerated process, since we could have people that have 15 years experience that effectively have been utilizing some form of college level intake of information. This would apply also to many people in industry who basically move forward with the high points necessary in many of these categories or course interest areas with what was pertinent to their business. The cumulative effect of absorbing knowledge over the course of time means that parties already have relative understanding of many areas and can effectively move forward with very little catalyst mentioning. This allows for different types of multi-screen, multi-image, covering multi-areas simultaneously, yet having them referenceable as though a touch option, which means that in the future, ultimately, there can be different styles of accessing. For instance, one can hit a pause. There's 4 images on the screen, maybe 16 images on the screen, and they wanted to pause and look at it because they wanted to review 1, 2, perhaps 3 of the items, which means they've paused it. They now can go to an extended button that will give them the option, or they use it with verbal AI to select the 3 categories to look at more intensively until they get to what they want. This can also be modified by a different direct request. In the future, more elaborate automatic features would already have this material, when a party froze it, having 16 multiple images in a widescreen, for instance, would actually have an interactive touch where they could touch and directly go to. Or they could also do a control touch where they pick 3 and those 3 go automatically, saving steps effectively to forward through material. These various aspects have other considerations, such as time goes on, we will have people that have 20, 25 years experience in understanding certain styles of knowledge. We effectively have that today in many places. So many people would readily be able to grasp what I've already discussed as a here and now technology option. Therefore, the achievement of final assembly of these cogs effectively does have a market area that would be interested in utilizing these techniques right now at even the highest integration of multi-tech, multi-subject incorporation. Continuing, the understanding of people that have 25 years of exposure to various categories can have 14 or more categories that they have a familiarity with, where what they're looking for is a custom-made documentary or a custom-made application as to a cross-integration of material that they are interested in, especially since there can be a selection involving how the information might pertain to the subject material that they're interested in working with. This can be enormously helpful and enormously time-saving, especially to people, particular in industry and business. These type of applications can also be enormously helpful for parties that have various interests in many areas. Aside from generalized industry and generalized technology, we can jump around understanding that we do have the manufacturing aspect, but we also have what could pertain to the sales aspect and future engineering understanding aspects. So we can have these various roads that tree off into different directions that have nuanced variances of the material, in which basically much of the material might be effectively dropped from the condensed high point editing on presentation and documentary assembly. However, the material would still be, because of AI, accessible literally down to the smallest detail of what might need to be recalled. But of course, we have the other aspect areas that can be blended in different combinations, dealing with anything from artistry to an understanding of technology interaction that might have to do with the entertainment industry and the relationship to consumers, public consumers, ticket purchasers, concert goers, film goers, anyone who is going to assimilate information. There can be a custom understanding relationship as to psychology matrices that can apply to anything that is relative to the subject material. This can include the obvious sales preferences of various parties and tendencies, to inspiring and being able to track forward on future growth with parties working with material as a live interactive understanding for fast track new development or forwarding of any material area. Effectively, in review as to all that has been mentioned, we would be talking about, from a programmer aspect, that effectively elaborate prompts would be made in effect that would effectively be arranging material that would literally be ready to go as referenceable or used to be able to encode and make a custom language model. This type of aspects literally have incredibly fast track understanding of various multi-topics. When dealing with mass modeling, we can have a series of styles of tactical tables and extension control boards that can be very elaborate but could address with great intricacy each of these given aspect areas that can in fact be addressed literally at a high-speed, localized, direct custom switch interaction. these types of control board systems would look very much like edit controllers that are used in multimedia, but in effect would be far more control oriented. Effectively, you can also have large engineering rooms or war rooms, where effectively you can have an entire area the size of an airplane hangar for a large aircraft filled full of multiple tactical tables, where there's also additional styles of tables and terminals, where parties can use these elaborate, as mentioned, direct control boards to be able to work in conjunction with computers and other large language models and bots, basically, and or agent bots in mass numbers as assistive tooling, as we can have large numbers of engineers that could be in the hundreds. Perhaps if we were to consider a room, again, the size of a large aircraft hangar, that effectively could be as though a war room, but it's an engineering room to actually deal with all aspects of mass modeling of an entire city or country, where in effect we can have 100 experts that have extreme multi-tech knowledge working with these tactical tables and these individual breakout board items to be able to affect looking at any model structure and go to the direct coordinates and sub these out into sections as parties can work on them individually and even simultaneously to be able to affect an understanding of a more accurate live addressing of the mass model structure being considered. This can be the most elaborate nature of how the effective models can be live tracked, adjusted by technicians that again are multi-tech parties that can have upwards of, in the future, of 16 master's degrees each, because they are using super AI assistive tooling, and they have taken the integration courses to integrate them into a reasonable understanding of the material, to be able to fast track through the cross-referencing of the relationships of various materials without having to go through the painstaking long course analysis or study courses involving each individual topic. Effective visualizations are now necessary to review. The suggested idea here is to effectively look at an overall analysis and come up with a compared first run analysis, then consider different aspects and do a separate analysis for each of the aspects that could be listed on a list afterwards. We can have main point analysis, including on the list with subpoint analysis, and then have a high point going to the main point analysis to address the basic visualizations to effectively encompass the understanding for better visual direct conveyance. These items can be looked at more intensively by selection, and we can continue developing the material. This, in effect, could also be utilized as, now that we've gotten to this point, as to say we want to consider making multi-agents and language models and programming as needed to be able to adapt to the various styles of characters that would be considered the normal humans that could be running these various control event areas, such as the tactical tables, the breakout boards, the individual smaller terminals that would be working with this mass model engineering. Each of these aspect areas of understanding and combinations of categories would be instilled and literally make a series of representations of each of the characters or parties or experts portrayed within the hangar itself, so that we can come up with a series of combinations of more dedicated yet perhaps smaller language models with mass multi-assistance. This can also be clusters of smaller language models with mass agents in conjunction working with the material, but to be managed by a generalized, we could call it a non-player character, that effectively manages this multi-AI, multi-agent construct, having its own assistive tooling on demand for its operational purposes for further independent exploration or running simulations or running within the matrix of their character. We can also have adjustments to these characters as to personalities, personal likes, an entire lifestyle that can be created as though these characters are people that live within a city and have their own lives and their own likes and things they participate in as a generalized character sheet development item.